Pack your bags for a fresh off the boat season premiere event. Because this family definitely needs a vacation.
And what do you do for joy, Jessica?
I micromanage my family.
Fresh Off the Boat premieres tonight, 8:30, 7:30 Central on ABC.
I'm not a salesman, I'm a technical person here. It's my duty to aware you about it.
That's fair enough then. I thought for 1 minute you were a scammer there, but I'd now believe you. So you're a technical PC consultant, yeah?
No problem. No problem, sir.
I trust you with my life.
No problem. All right. So now you want to proceed this call, or you want to disconnect this line? You can tell me directly. No problem in that case.
Let's proceed, yeah? It sounds good.
All right. So may I know what page you can see?
It says teamviewer.com, and there's some options.
All right. It's a blue background with a lady picture page, or it's a lots of option with white background page?
It has, it's the blue one, yes.
And the lady picture on your right hand side as well, yeah?
That's correct.
Yeah, all right. And top of the lady picture, top of the lady head, there are some options. The very first option is take a tour, and the second one, download, the third one, support, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, you don't need to click anything. You just highlight the second option. You will get a drop-down menu automatically.
Right, got it.
And may I know what the option you can see in this drop-down menu? Can you please read the very first fourth option for me?
It says, would you like to infect your computer with this virus so some twat can access it through a backdoor and put a virus on your PC?
All right. And the second option?
It just says, f*** off.
Third option?
Piss off.
Fourth option?
Kiss my ass.
Kiss your ass.
Yeah, that's the fifth option.
Okay, so click on kiss of your ass.
Alright. 10 out of 10. You're quite funny, but f*** off. That was hilarious. He couldn't keep his laughing.
It means your computer having downloaded a malicious file and chunks file, which is corrupted all of your file in your computer day by day. So that is the reason you are getting this call from the computer maintenance department. So we can show you all those malicious files which are running in your computer. And then we will help you to get rid of this kind of malicious file. So are you sitting in front of your computer?
I am, yes.
So we will show you, we will guide you some steps. You will check in your own site, then you will see in your own eyes. Okay.
Alright.
So look at your keyboard.
Yes.
At the left hand side bottom corner, you see a CTRL keys control key.
I do.
Beside CTRL, you see a flag Windows key.
I do.
So press Windows key and hold it. And another finger press R like Romeo. At the same time together, Windows and the letter R.
Could you repeat that, please, in English?
Windows and the letter R at the same time together.
Windows and...
R like Romeo at the same time together.
R for retard. Okay, I got that. So Windows
That-
and R. Okay, yeah, got that.
Then what do you see in the screen?
The run box is opened.
Yeah, you see a white panel where you type.
Yes.
So type your C for Charlie, M for Michael, D for Delta,
The command line, yeah?
your CMD.
Yeah.
Then give a left click on OK. Then what do you see in the screen?
One sec.
Sorry?
It's opened up the administrator command execution file.
Yeah, you got a black Windows coming in your screen.
Yeah, the little DOS command windows come up, yeah.
You see in black Windows, cursor is blinking.
I do.
Yeah, so type here A for Alpha,
Mm-hmm.
as for sugar.
Hang on a second. Alright, go again. A for alpha.
A for alpha,
S for shithead, yeah.
Again, as for sugar.
S for shithead, yeah.
O like Oscar.
O for orifice, yeah.
C like Charlie.
C for cunt, yeah.
And now repeat me, what are you typing there?
I'm typing scamming twat from India is trying to take control of my computer.
Sorry?
I'm typing scamming twat from India is trying to take control of my computer.
No, sir.
Oh no.
If you write ASSOC and if you press the enter key, then you got your ID. So first we will confirm you it's your computer or not. Okay, I'm telling you from my side your computer license ID and you match your side. Because only Windows departments know your computer license ID and you are the genuine user, you know your ID and no one else in the world.
Right.
That's why we will guide you how to check your ID, then we will confirm you if your computer or not.
Could I speak to Bill Gates, please? Could you put him on? Because obviously if you work for Microsoft.
Yeah, now what do you see in the screen? Tell me.
What do I see on my screen now?
What do you see in the screen?
I see the Audacity sound recording that's recording this conversation. Would you like to say hello? You're being watched by thousands of people right now. Say hi. Say hi. You're live. They're not going to say hi. Say hello. You've just won a luxury yacht. Congratulations, you are the 100th caller to Mac. Ah, he's... Oh, that was so funny.
Calling you because some hackers have hacked your computer and your computer performing hacking activities through a couple of weeks. So your computer is almost corrupted. So before your computer gets crashed, we have called you to fix this problem.
You've got us, huh? I am a hacker, yes.
Are you a hacker?
Yeah, so I'm assuming I have to... Are you the police?
Yeah, I am calling you to point. Because you are a hacker. You are not that. I am a...
I've been hacking into ferret porn sites. I not proud.
They're like knights in space. In the
Howdy folks, and welcome back to World of Tanks with the Mighty Jingles, and it is once again time for a tank review. This time we're taking a look at the brand new premium Tier 8 German tank destroyer. I'll have a stab at pronouncing the name of the thing, although I'm probably going to mangle it horribly. It's not fair. I can say the Jagdpanzer part, it's just the first bit, the Kanonen Jagdpanzer. It's the Cannon Panzer. That's what I'm going to call it for the duration of this review, because it's easy, and I'm English, and I'm lazy. I'm also going to try something new in this review, purely and simply because YouTube is still screwing up the frame rate of any video I upload that has a file size of greater than 1 gigabyte. So this particular video review is going to be split into chapters in order to try to keep the file size down and therefore the frame rate nice and smooth, and we'll see how that works out once YouTube's finished processing it. So in this first section of the video review, we're going to be taking a look at the machine in the garage and comparing it to its competitors at Tier 8. What is one of these things going to cost you? Well, currently in the EU Premium gift shop, one of these things will set you back €49.99 or £36.39. This is something that Wargaming are doing increasingly often of late. You never seem to be able to buy just the tank that you want, or the warship that you want if you're playing World of Warships. Instead, they come bundled with a bunch of stuff that you don't necessarily want or need. Obviously, they all come with a free garage slot. In this case, 30 days of premium and 1,750 gold. Obviously, this allows Wargaming to bump the price up, but it's been upsetting a lot of people because not everybody wants 30 days of premium. Not everybody wants 1,750 gold. As you can see, I certainly don't need it, but if I want to get the Cannon Panzer, then I have to fork out for the extras. So the question on everybody's lips is a Cannon Panzer and 30 days of premium and a garage slot and 1,750 gold worth the asking price of just a fraction under €50? Let's find out. Initial impressions are that the Cannon Panzer is very, very similar to the E25, which has obviously been removed from sale. There are a couple of significant differences, although the similarities are obvious. They're both very, very low profile machines, they're very, very stealthy, they're very, very quick and manoeuvrable, their armour is absolutely terrible, and they both have quite punchy guns. Although in the case of the E25 it wasn't so much about the damage and penetration of the gun as just the raw blistering rate of fire, which was absolutely phenomenal. You definitely don't get a monster rate of fire on the Cannon Panzer. This has a 90mm gun, whereas the E25 had a 75mm gun. In fact, the same 75mm gun that you got at Tier 5 on the Stuck 3, which is why the E25 got such an amazing rate of fire out of that gun. Kind of in the same way that the Jagdtiger 88 got a ridiculous rate of fire with its long 88mm gun. Of course, the E25 and the Jagdtiger 88 are no longer available for sale, but the biggest difference between those two machines and the Cannon Panzer here is they got premium matchmaking and this one doesn't. The E25 as a Tier 7 machine would only ever get into Tier 8 matches at the very most. So while on paper the 75mm gun on the E25 looked distinctly underwhelming since it only had 150mm of penetration, it had the rate of fire and the accuracy of 0.30 to hit the weak spots of any Tier 7 or 8 heavy tanks that it might have to fight. The Jagdtiger 88 was in a similar position. It was still using the Pak-43 88mm gun that you get on the Tiger down at Tier 7, but it would only ever have to fight Tier 9 machines, and with 0.31 accuracy and one of the most ridiculous rates of fire of any machine in World of Tanks, it was entirely capable of looking after itself. That's not necessarily something you can say about the Cannon Panzer here. The gun, while it's a 90mm gun and not an 88mm gun, is very, very similar to the gun on the Jagdtiger 88. It has a little bit more penetration and it's marginally less accurate, but it is still very accurate. Unfortunately, the Cannon Panzer has to fight Tier 10s. Premium matchmaking is a thing of the past. So let's just take a look at the stats of this machine, and then we'll compare it to other Tier 8 tank destroyers and other premium tank destroyers, not necessarily Tier 8, and we'll show you exactly what it is that makes this thing tick. For a start, the armour is absolutely abysmal, but then again, the armour was absolutely abysmal on the E25, and nobody's trying to claim that the E25 was underpowered because it didn't have any armour. This thing actually has less armour than the E25. The E25 had 50mm of armour at the front. The Cannon Panzer only has 30. Now you might be sitting there thinking to yourself, well, big deal, 50mm of armour is still terrible. Well, yes, it is. However, it's quite a significant number because of overmatching. Also, the E25's armour was better sloped at the front and the sides than the Cannon Panzer. With 50mm of armour, in order to completely overmatch the armour of your tank, you have to be firing a 151mm or better gun at the E25, which meant that you could get some spectacular bouncers off the E25 if, for example, you were reversing back over a hill and somebody struck you up a glacis. It was not unusual, although you shouldn't count on it, but it wasn't unusual to see shots bounce off the E25 in the most hilarious fashion. isn't going to happen with the Cannon Panzer, not with 30mm of frontal armour. So, okay, the armour is garbage, but nobody really expected this thing to be as well armoured as the Jagdtiger. Speed and manoeuvrability is the forte of the Cannon Panzer, not armour. So what's the speed and manoeuvrability actually like? Well, it's pretty impressive. This thing has a top speed of 70 kilometers per hour, which is 5 kilometers per hour faster, believe it or not, than the E25. Unfortunately, the power-to-weight ratio, while it's not bad, it isn't really quite there. The E25 had a 700 horsepower engine and weighed about the same as the Cannon Panzer. It had a power-to-weight ratio of over 26 horsepower per ton, which is phenomenally good. The Cannon Panzer only has a 500 horsepower engine, which means that its power-to-weight ratio, while not bad, and I really must stress this, it's not a bad power-to-weight ratio, it's nowhere near as good as that of the E25, clocking in at just under 20 horsepower per ton. As far as raw manoeuvrability is concerned, it's actually very, very good indeed. It has a 46 degree per second hull traverse, which is fantastic. And take that into consideration with the fantastic firing arc of this 90mm gun as well. You can cover a very, very wide arc at the front of the machine with the gun without having to turn the hull of the tank. And that is a significant problem on French tank destroyers in particular, because they tend to have a very, very narrow firing arc in combination with very long aiming time. In a French tank destroyer, you're constantly having to turn the hull of the tank and then go through the whole long aiming cycle again in order to get the gun pointed at and fired at whatever you're shooting at. That is not a problem that you're going to suffer in the Cannon Panzer. All of which brings us rather neatly onto the 90mm Rheinmetall DM1 gun, and at the end of the day, this is a tank destroyer, so the gun had better be good. Unfortunately, well, it's not bad, but it's just a little underwhelming. 9.52 rounds per minute rate of fire, 212 average penetration, 250 with premium high explosive anti-tank ammunition, 240 average damage, 0.32 accuracy, which is very good, and a 2-second aiming time, which is also pretty good. You can see some distinct similarities here between guns like the German Pak 43-88, which has exactly the same damage and comparable penetration, aiming time and accuracy, and guns like the 20-pounder on the British AT-15. Very, very similar statistics across the board, except for that rate of fire, and that's what lets the Cannon Panzer down. This machine produces, at best, a sustained damage per minute output of 2,286. That's just not very good. It's better than the DPM of a Tier 8 heavy tank, but it should be. This is a tank destroyer. Compared to the other Tier 8 tank destroyers, this is the runt of the litter. The British AT-15, with its 20-pounder gun, manages a damage per minute of in excess of 2,700. The Soviet Su-101, over 2,800. How about the infamous BL-10 on the ISU-152? Well, it not just beats it in penetration and alpha damage, it also beats it in damage per minute, managing 2,500 or more damage per minute, even though it only has a third of the rate of fire. 2,600 damage with the 120mm AT gun on the T-28. The same gun on the T-28 prototype, which produces a slower rate of fire because the T-28 prototype has the advantage of having a turret, still manages to beat the Cannon Panzer on DPM. The Rheinmetall Borsig with the 128mm gun. Bigger gun, more penetration, bigger damage up front, and better sustained DPM, over 2,500. Even the venerable Ferdinand, with half the rate of fire, still manages 150 more damage per minute than the Cannon Panzer with its 128mm gun. Actually, quite embarrassingly, with the stock 88mm gun, it also manages better damage per minute. But where things start to get really embarrassing is when you compare this gun to the guns on other premium tank destroyers. Of course, there is only one premium Tier 8 tank destroyer to compare it to, and it's German. It's the Jagdtiger 88. Now, you can't buy it anymore, but that doesn't mean it's gone away. You're still going to see these things on the battlefield, and the Jagdtiger 88 gets 2,667 damage per minute. Of course, that means we've now run out of premium Tier 8 tank destroyers with which to compare the Cannon Panzer, so we're just going to have to compare it to the Tier 7 premiums, but don't worry, it still looks bad, even compared to these. The E25, 2,700 damage per minute. Like the Jagdtiger 88, you can't buy it anymore, but like the Jagdtiger 88, hasn't gone away. And you can say exactly the same thing about the SU-12244, also at Tier 7, which is also still around even though you can't buy it, and manages 2,925 DPM. Okay, Jingles, but machines like this, the SU-12244, the E25, the Jagdtiger 88, they were taken away for a reason, and it wasn't just because of the premium matchmaking, they also had absurdly good damage per minute. Fair enough. What about the ISU-122S? This is a brand new premium tank destroyer, Tier 7. It does not get premium matchmaking, but it does manage to do over 3,000 damage per minute. Hell, it almost does 3,200. So you're probably beginning to get the picture by now. Where does that leave the Cannon Panzer? Well, it doesn't have the penetration or the knockout punch of the tank destroyers with the big guns, and it doesn't have the DPM of the tank destroyers with the little guns. Or any of the other guns for that matter. But there's only so much theory crafting you can do. At the end of the day, it's more down to the skill of the person driving the machine than any characteristics of the machine itself, although you have to agree that characteristics help. So what we're going to do now, right after the break, is we're going to take this thing out into random battles, strap our man pants on, and see what we can do with it. I hope you'll join me in the next video. Howdy folks, and welcome to part 2 of my Kanonen Jagdpanzer review, or as I'm calling it, the Cannon Panzer, because I have no idea if I'm pronouncing the name correctly or not, although I suspect that by the time the comments section comes to life I'll find out one way or the other. As I mentioned in the first part of this review, the reason I'm splitting it up into 2 parts is to try to keep the file size of my video uploads below 1 gigabyte, as this seems to be the root of the problem that we've been experiencing over the course of the last week with choppy frame rates on my typically quite long videos. So I guess we'll find out whether or not this has worked. Anyway, on with the review. So to recap, for the benefit of those of you who skipped the first part of the review, which consisted of all the theory crafting in the garage, and I'm sure there were some of you who skipped out on that and just jumped straight in here to the action. What we've so far discovered about the Cannon Panzer is that it has very, very good speed and maneuverability, abysmally bad armour, the power to weight ratio is good but not especially good, and the 90mm gun produces the worst DPM of any of the Tier 8 tank destroyers, and significantly worse DPM than any of the premium Tier 7 tank destroyers. The ISU-122S, for example, has almost 1,000 DPM more than this machine, and it's only Tier 7. But there's only so far you can take the theory crafting. At the end of the day, you've got to take this thing out and test it under random battle conditions, and so doing that right now, we have Fallen Apart, and he's in a Tier 10 match because this thing does not get premium matchmaking. And he's on the Sand River map. Now, remember this 90mm gun? It only has 212mm of penetration, but it does a very, very good accuracy, 0.32. That 0.32 accuracy means that you stand a decent chance of being able to hit the weak spots of even Tier 10 tanks, providing you can keep them at a good arm's distance away from you, and be able to shoot at them from outside of your own view range. What that means, of course, is that you have to rely on your team to spot the targets for you, and that, well, under ideal circumstances, that would be the way all tank destroyers operate. Unfortunately, this is World of Tanks random battles, and they're very, very rarely ideal circumstances. If you're in a Tier 8 match and you're in a Tier 8 tank destroyer with a reasonable degree of armour like the AT-15, the Jagdtiger 88, the T-28, even the T-28 prototype of the Jagdpanther II, it's not unusual To see them up near the front of the attack, while not necessarily leading the attack, although sometimes they can do that, they're definitely up there with the heavies. They don't really have to hang around at the back, and in the case of machines like the T-28, they're so slow that you really don't want to be hanging around at the back, because if you do, the fight tends to have moved on before you get the chance to shoot at anything. In a machine like the Cannon Panzer, on the other hand, you absolutely definitely do have to hang around at the back, even in a Tier 8 match, and definitely in a Tier 10 match, because with 30mm of armour, even a high explosive shell is going to penetrate and do full damage. Of course, none of this is unique to the Cannon Panzer. There are plenty of other tank destroyers in the game, not just Tier 8, that do not have particularly good armour. Rheinmetall Borsig, for example, has tissue paper for armour. The ISU-152 is not a particularly well-armoured machine either. And yet people have monster games in these machines. And they have monster games in these machines because you don't need to fire that many shots in a Rheinmetall Borsig or an ISU-152 in order to do a lot of damage. The Borsig by default is equipped with a 128mm gun and can fit a 150mm gun, which, like the ISU-152's BL-10 gun, does 750 alpha damage. It doesn't take many direct hits from guns like this to push you up to the top of the damage dealt charts in the post-battle results screen. The Cannon Panzer, on the other hand, only has a 90mm gun, and it only does 240 damage per shot, and as we've already established, it doesn't fire particularly quickly. So you do have to fire a lot of shots in this thing in order to get an appreciable amount of damage done. Then of course you have machines like the AT-15, the Jagdtiger 88, the SU-101, which all have guns that have similar characteristics to this 90mm Rheinmetall DM-1 gun. They all do around about 240 damage per shot. They all have broadly similar penetration, accuracy and aiming times. And they all fire a lot faster than this thing does as well. But that in itself isn't too much of an issue until you take into account the fact that they all have armour and this thing doesn't. Now, when you're in a tank destroyer and you're shooting at targets that are just inside the maximum limit of your view range, you fire at them, you do some damage, they become aware of your existence, they all turn their guns around and start shooting back at you. If you're in a Jagdtiger 88, an AT-15, an SU-101, that's not really too much of a problem because these machines have armour. Sure, they have weak spots, but at ranges of 200, 300, 350 metres, it's very difficult for other tanks to hit those weak spots. The Cannon Panzer is a weak spot. You get hit anywhere in this thing, and you're going to feel it. So what that means is, at the kind of ranges where machines like the AT-15, the Jagdtiger 88, or the SU-101 can quite safely sit detected and still exchange fire with enemy vehicles, while being relatively immune to taking any damage, this thing just can't do it. The second you see a gun turning around to point towards you in this thing, you've got to fall back and get into cover. Which means that, in practice, a machine that already has the lowest DPM of any of the Tier 8 tank destroyers has even worse DPM in practice because it just cannot afford to sit there going toe-to-toe and exchanging fire with anything that knows where it is. You could make the case that this is absolutely no different to the E25, and so if you liked the look of the E25 and you didn't manage to get your hands on it before it was removed from sale, then get yourself a Cannon Panzer, exactly the same game style. Well, yes and no. Ideally, you didn't want to be trading health with anything in an E25 either, because while the E25 had better armour, believe it or not, than the Cannon Panzer, 50mm at the front, compared to the 30mm that this thing has, 50mm is still bad. Although, as we explained in the first half of this video, it is actually quite a significant number when it comes to the overmatching mechanics, but still 50mm is bad armour. But the thing about the E25 is that it had such an unbelievable rate of fire that in a lot of cases, when it came down to it, obviously in the ideal circumstances, you didn't want to be trading health with anything in an E25, but if you had to do it, a lot of the time you would come off best, purely because the E25 had 2,700 DPM. Depending on what it was you were actually trading health with in an E25, it's not unheard of for an E25 to be able to land 5 or possibly even 6 shots on target for every 1 shot that's coming back in the other direction. The E25 just had that good a rate of fire. You don't get that in the Cannon Panzer. If you are trading health with anything in this machine, you may win, but you're going to lose a lot of health doing it. And that makes it very, very difficult when you're in this machine to carry a game. If it's going badly, if your team isn't up to scratch, if the enemy team is just outright playing better than your team, it's very, very hard to carry a team of donkeys in a machine like this. Very, very hard, but not impossible. Fallen Apart has not been having a particularly good game up until this point. It's a tier 10 match on Sand River. He's been mostly ineffectual down at the southwestern end of the map. He didn't really have anything to shoot at. The targets that he could see, he couldn't see much of them. They were small, fast moving. He's just run back to defend his base, and now he's spotting the enemy E50M for his artillery. He does not want to get shot at by that guy, and of course, lots of artillery on the enemy team. Come on, M53. There it is. Fantastic shot from the M53 Allied artillery, and he is doing absolutely everything he possibly can here to not get hit by the enemy artillery. 3 big artillery on the enemy team, 30mm of armor on this thing. Artillery of that size doesn't even need to hit you to ruin your day in a machine with as little armor as this. Luckily, they've managed to nail the E50M. That guy driving around would have been a significant problem for a machine that only has 212mm of penetration. Hell, even the 250mm penetration high explosive anti-tank ammunition against an angled E50M would have problems. But the E50M's dead. Fallen Apart spotted him, M53 nailed him. Now he's waiting to make sure that the artillery has loaded, and he's going out to poke the hornet's nest and try to find the other 3 enemy artillery. And there's one of them. Unfortunately, he only has a 90mm gun, so he can't one-shot kill this guy. Looking back, checking to see whether or not friendly artillery... Oh, there's another one. He's fired and missed. Come on, M53, take him out, take him out, take him out, take him out, take him out. Come on, fire, 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 fire. There it goes. Bang, got him. Where's the FV207? Some great teamwork going on between these two guys, the tank destroyer and the artillery, talking to each other, working together, making sure the one was ready to fire before the other one moved. Yeah, I know, communication. What's going on? This is not World of Tanks. So where's the FB207? Well, he did just fire, so he's got to be somewhere that isn't in direct line of sight, otherwise they would have seen him, and can hit that spot of the map over there in the corner. And my initial suggestion would have been that he was down there in the low ground, right over there to the right. But close, but no cigar. And this is where the slowish rate of fire of the Cannon Panzer can get you into trouble. This guy is facing in the wrong direction. He gets a free shot into the side, and this guy gets to turn around, spend a couple of seconds aiming, and fire a snapshot off that could have very, very seriously affected the outcome of this match before the Cannon Panzer can reload and finish him off with a second shot. But a win's a win. Not a particularly great game for Fallen Apart, except for the performance at the end, which was pretty good. Some nice teamwork there with the M53. He only did 1600 damage, he did 1100 spot damage, but tier 8 machine, tier 10 match, everything he was shooting at was either the same or higher tier than him, so you do quite well out of it experience-wise. And because it's a tier 8 premium machine, you do quite well out of it as far as credits are concerned as well. Even though he doesn't run a premium account, he still made a 37,000 credit profit in this thing. And just for the sake of science, I decided to put the credit earning potential of this machine to the test. Now, the Cannon Panzer isn't unique in this respect. All tier 8 premium machines have the same money-making potential as the Cannon Panzer. But I fired this thing up, I queued up for a random battle, I got into the game, drove about 50 meters forward just outside of the cap circle, and then to all intents and purposes I went AFK. I'm not proud of it, it's not big, it's not strong, and it's not clever, but I did it for the sake of science. I basically shot nothing and detected nothing. And at the end of the game, I still made a 7,000 credit profit. You just don't lose money when you're driving premium tier 8 machines in World of Tanks. So, yeah, okay, it makes a lot of money. Big deal. All tier 8 premiums make a lot of money. And you know what? Tier 8 premiums make a lot more money if they do a lot of damage. So what's the actual damage dealing capabilities like in this thing under ideal circumstances? Well, these aren't exactly ideal circumstances, it's a tier 9 match after all, but showing us how to exploit the superb camo rating of the Cannon Panzer, this is I don't know how to pronounce his name. It's Svavolnik? I don't know. I'm just going to call him Dave. Dave here in a Tier 9 match. And there are a couple of these cannon panzers kicking around. There's 2 on his team, there's 1 on the enemy team. And he's going to show us how to exploit the superb camo rating of this machine in order to get the most out of it. Now, he's not going to do it at first, but he's pretty much going to have to by the end of this match. So himself and 1 other cannon panzer rushing up front. This is a very, very fast machine, 70 kilometers per hour top speed. And they immediately find enemy light tank. He backs off, expecting to be lit up by tank destroyers at the rear that this guy's spotting for. Nothing happens. First cannon panzer rushes in. Now, while 1 cannon panzer might not have a particularly good rate of fire, 2 of them, particularly when they're backed up by yet another light tank, do. Enemy Walker Bulldog spotted, going for an early spotting position on the far side of the swamp there. His first shot misses, and while this machine does have a fantastic firing arc with that 90mm gun, the Bulldog is just moving too quickly for him to get a second shot off while that guy's still in line of fire. So he moves up. It's a little risky here. He's running the risk of being spotted from the left-hand side. There he is. Doesn't have an awful lot to shoot at. Misses. Goes for the reload. Where's the Bulldog going? Again, doesn't have a massive amount of that guy to shoot at, and then he disappears. This is a weakness of this machine. Poor gun elevation. The barrel will not point up very far, so you can see that when you're on a downward facing slope like this with a target in front of you, like that Jagdpanther 2, it's practically impossible to get the gun pointed at them. Meanwhile, the Walker Bulldog has popped back up again. Dave has not been spotted yet. Uses that superb firing arc to point the gun right in front of the Walker Bulldog and smack him with 1 good solid hit. And he is taking an awful risk here. He does manage to hit the Walker Bulldog again, but now of course he has been spotted. He hangs around for 1 third and final shot, and he doesn't hang around to get the kill. With a Jagdpanther 2 on that opposite ridge over there to the right, and who knows what else on the other side of the swamp. A cannon panzer is a big, fat, juicy target. Jagdpanther 2 with its 128mm gun can take 1/3 of your health off or more with 1 hit. Not worth the risk hanging around in the open, spotted, waiting to take a 4th shot at a Walker Bulldog that was doomed anyway. That bush seems like a popular place to be. Now that cannon panzer was obviously just fired through the bush, which means that, well, if there was any artillery in this game, this bush would be a very, very dangerous place to be. Takes a shot at the second Walker Bulldog on the other side of the railway embankment, but that was never going to hit. And then suddenly, as he's going for the Bulldog, a wild AMX-30 appears, and this is not good. The AMX-30 fires at the targets behind him. He rushes forward to get underneath his gun. One other good factor about the cannon panzer is it is an incredibly low-profile machine. You could park a Rheinmetall Borsig next to this thing, and the Borsig would be able to fire over the top of the cannon panzer. It is that low to the ground. This is a good thing and a bad thing. It means you can take advantage of concealment that other tanks just would not be able to. On the other hand, it makes it very difficult to see what's on the other side of a ridge, because you don't have a turret that can poke over the top. Now he's taken a hit there, and it's damaged his gun, so he immediately uses his repair kit, the AMX-30, thinks about coming around after him, and then realises, nope, there's another cannon panzer over here who very foolishly dived over the top, right into the middle of that lot. He puts a shot into him instead. It comes over. Oh, the AMX-30 is not having a good day. And he's still not pointing his gun. Oh, he's gone. He's gone. Alright. Target, target, target. We'll take out this guy here. The Jagdpanther 2 is pointing this way. He fires and misses. The Jagdpanther 2 has just run out of friends, and it's pretty much all over for this guy. Bingo. He's got him. Onto the enemy base, yeah? Well, no. Although pretty much everybody else is running to the enemy base. But Dave here is paying attention to the map. It's not a popular skill, it does seem to be out of fashion, but Dave appears to be something of a bluff old traditionalist. Their base is about to fall. The enemy base, on the other hand, well, just have a look at the map there. You've potentially got a Jagdpanther 2, a Jagdtiger, possibly a Ferdinand, all sitting on that ridge line, facing back towards the enemy base. And there's an RU-251 out there spotting for them. Those guys that rushed on are never going to cap that enemy base with that kind of reception waiting for them. And so Dave rushes back to defend his base against the oncoming rush from the town up in the northwestern side of the map. And the only other person on his team up here with him is a Jagdpanther 2, who is probably very, very grateful for the assistance, but not entirely sure what kind of good a lone 90mm gun can do. You'd be surprised. Dave here knows a thing or two about World of Tanks concealment mechanics. Now you see them, pull back. Now you don't. It's safe to fire through the bush. You're far enough away that your muzzle blast will not give your position away. If you can't see them, just wait for somebody else on your team to spot them. Or you could move forward, reacquire the targets, move back, bush turns opaque, carry on firing. You can see the IS-3 has absolutely no idea where he's taking fire from. Shot after shot after shot. Easily penetrating the lower glacis of the IS-3. He doesn't have to use premium ammunition for this. There's another one. And again. This is one of those rare circumstances where you are actually able to put the admittedly poor DPM of the Cannon Panzer to effective use. There's the T-44, he's hit again. Multiple layers of concealment between him and the T-44. He can fire through this bush, and the T-44 will not see him. Bingo, there you go. Cap reset. And oh look, everybody who went south to cap the enemy base has been annihilated by hidden tank destroyers while being spotted by an RU-251. What a surprise, said absolutely nobody ever. I don't lay claim to being a particular tactical genius of any kind where World of Tanks is concerned, but that was so obvious even I saw it coming. Heck, John Wayne would have seen that one coming. And he's been dead for 30 years. It's not looking particularly good for our old friend Dave here. Oh, Jagdpanther 2 spotted somebody, and he's dead. Yeah. He got nailed by the Jagdtiger. Oh, now Dave's the only one left alive on his team. I guess we're going to put that camo rating to the test here, aren't we? Why don't we try it out on this Centurion? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that the Jagdtiger is directly to Dave's left, and I am amazed that he did not get spotted while shooting at this Centurion. But he doesn't. I don't know if the Jagdtiger's moved after killing the Jagdpanther 2. He was out there on the left somewhere, but this Centurion has no idea who's shooting at him. And he's... oh, do you see that ricochet? Bounce. Hit the Centurion's upper plate. Oh, Dave, you're not alone. But he's still not spotted. You can see that these guys... you can see the ones that have sixth sense and the ones that don't. They pop over the embankment. Oh, somebody spotted me. Pull back. Dave's fired so many shots in this tank, he's only got 2 rounds of ammo left. You'll note that the T-49, by the way, died right next to him up there, and that's a light tank that keeps its camo bonus while it's moving. The T-49 got spotted and killed by the RU-251. Dave still hasn't been detected. Now, sure, Dave was probably making better use of camo than the T-49 was, but it does still have a very, very good camo rating. Ferdinand aims for the lower plate, shot seemed to go a little bit high, bounced. Ferdinand, obviously aware that somebody's shooting at him, doesn't know who. Second shot penetrates, and Dave has been spotted, and it's all over. There is no way he is going to survive this. He's getting shot from all different sides. Every single shot that hits him is going to penetrate. If these guys were firing high explosive, he would be dead already. He had a good game. He did absolutely everything that he could, but at this point, it's just a matter of time. Ace Tanker on a defeat. That's not bad. And 149,000 credits earned, which is pretty damn impressive. He did over 5,500 damage. He actually did 1,200 spotting damage as well. Fired 34 shots, 30 hits, 26 penetrations. As far as the machine itself is concerned, it's actually pretty good. It's very fast, 70 kilometers per hour. The power-to-weight ratio, it's not ridiculously overpowered like on the E25 for example, but it's still pretty damn good at just under 20 horsepower per ton. The traverse speed is very good, 46 degrees per second. It's a very, very maneuverable machine. It's a very low profile machine, and that means it's got a very, very good stealth rating. The only problem is the gun that it's saddled with. Well, the gun and the armour. We're not expecting it to be terribly well armoured, but it's got even less armour than the E25, and with 30mm of armour, that basically means anybody who is firing a gun with a caliber of 91mm or better is going to completely overmatch your armour. And there are an awful lot of 105mm or better guns in Tier 8, 9 and 10 battles. And then there's the gun. The thing is, it's not a terrible gun. The accuracy of .32 is very good. The aiming time of 2 seconds is pretty good as well. But there's no getting around the fact that you're looking at the Tier 8 tank destroyer that has got the lowest DPM of any Tier 8 tank destroyer in World of Tanks. And in fact, as we've already seen, it's got significantly lower DPM than any of the premium Tier 7 tank destroyers. And it doesn't even have big alpha damage to make up for that fact. It still only does 240 damage per shot, with a distinctly underwhelming 212mm of penetration. And it gets a tank destroyer